Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals to transform our world. End poverty in all its forms everywhere. More than 700 million people still live in extreme poverty on less than $1.90 a day. They struggle to fulfill the most basic needs. Most of them, more than 400 million, live in sub-Saharan Africa. An estimated 71 million additional people around the world will be pushed into extreme poverty due to COVID-19, the first rise in global poverty since 1998. Poverty affects developed countries as well. Right now, 30 million children are growing up poor in the world's richest countries. Eradicating poverty in all its forms remains one of the greatest challenges facing humanity. While the number of people living in extreme poverty dropped by more than half between 1990 and 2015, from 1.9 billion to 731 million, too many are still struggling for the most basic human needs. End hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. More than 750 million people suffer from hunger worldwide, the vast majority in developing countries. This number is expected to go up by over 100 million in 2020 alone due to COVID-19. Hunger and malnutrition are barriers to sustainable development because hungry people are less productive, more prone to disease, and less able to improve their livelihoods. To nourish today's 750 million hungry people and the additional 2 billion people expected by 2050, a profound change of the global food and agriculture system is needed. To end all forms of hunger and malnutrition by 2030 and ensure that all people, especially children, have access to sufficient and nutritious food all year round requires promoting sustainable agricultural practices such as supporting small-scale farmers and allowing equal access to land, technology and markets. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Despite great strides in improving people's health in recent years, inequalities in healthcare access still persist. The COVID-19 pandemic is throwing progress even further off track. More than 5 million children die before their 5th birthday every year. 16,000 children die each day from preventable diseases such as measles and tuberculosis. Every day, hundreds of women die during pregnancy or from childbirth-related complications. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Enormous progress has been made in achieving the target of universal primary education with 91% enrollment in 2015. However, 258 million children and youth of age 6 to 17 were still out of school in 2018 and more than half of children and adolescents are not meeting minimum proficiency standards in reading and mathematics. In 2020, as schools closed due to COVID-19, an estimated 90% of all students were out of school, with at least 500 million of those left without access to distance learning options. In addition to free primary and secondary schooling for all boys and girls by 2030, the aim is to provide equal access to affordable vocational training, eliminate gender and wealth disparities, and achieve universal access to quality higher education. Education is the key that will allow many other Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, to be achieved. When people are able to get quality education, they can break from the cycle of poverty. Education helps to reduce inequalities and to reach gender equality. It also empowers people everywhere to live more healthy and sustainable lives. Education is also crucial to fostering tolerance between people and contributes to more peaceful societies. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Women and girls represent half of the world's population and therefore also half of its potential. But gender inequality persists everywhere and stagnates social progress. On average, women in the labor market still earn 23% less than men globally. On average, women spend about 3 times as many hours in unpaid domestic and care work as men. Sexual violence and exploitation, the unequal division of unpaid care and domestic work, and discrimination in public office, all remain huge barriers. All these areas of inequality have been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. There has been a surge in reports of sexual violence, women have taken on more care work due to school closures, and 70% of health and social workers globally are women. As of 2014, 143 countries have guaranteed equality between men and women in their constitutions, but 52 have yet to take this step. Gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Access to water, sanitation and hygiene is a human right. Yet millions are still faced with daily challenges accessing even the most basic of services. Water scarcity affects more than 40% of the world population and is projected to increase with the rise of global temperatures as a result of climate change. Globally, 3 in 10 people lack access to safely managed drinking water services. And 6 in 10 people lack access to safely managed sanitation facilities, leaving an estimated 3 billion people without basic hand-washing facilities at home, a critical need to prevent infection and contain the spread of COVID-19. Investments in infrastructure and sanitation facilities, protection and restoration of water-related ecosystems, and hygiene education are among the steps necessary to ensure universal access to safe and affordable drinking water for all by 2030. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. Our everyday life depends on reliable and affordable energy. And yet the consumption of energy is the dominant contributor to climate change, accounting for around 60% of total global greenhouse gas emissions. From 2000 to 2018, the proportion of the global population with access to electricity has increased from 78% to 90%. In the least developed countries, that proportion has more than doubled during the same period. And yet, there are still about 789 million people around the world with no access to electricity. Ensuring universal access to affordable electricity by 2030 means investing in clean energy sources such as solar, wind and thermal. Expanding infrastructure and upgrading technology to provide clean energy in all developing countries is a crucial goal that can both encourage growth and help the environment. Promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. Globally, labor productivity has increased and the unemployment rate has decreased. However, more progress is needed to increase employment opportunities, especially for young people, reduce informal employment and labor market inequality, particularly in terms of the gender pay gap, promote safe and secure working environments, and improve access to financial services to ensure sustained and inclusive economic growth. The global unemployment rate in 2019 was 5%, down from 6.4% in 2000. However, COVID-19 could cause the equivalent of 400 million job losses in 2020, depending on the policy measures adopted. A persistent lack of decent work opportunities, insufficient investments and underconsumption contribute to the erosion of the basic social contract that all must share in progress. The creation of quality jobs remain a major challenge for almost all economies. Build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. Some progress has been made in the manufacturing industry. The global share of manufacturing value added in gross domestic product (GDP) increased from 15.2% in 2005 to 16.5% in 2018. Global manufacturing slowed in both developing and developed regions in 2018-19, mainly attributed to emerging trade and tariff barriers that constrain investment and future growth, and has plummeted in 2020 as a result of the pandemic. Investments in infrastructure, transport, aviation, energy and information and communication technology are crucial to achieving sustainable development and empowering communities in many countries. Reduce inequality within and among countries. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Climate change affects every country on every continent. It is caused by human activities and threatens the future of our planet. With rising greenhouse gas emissions, climate change is occurring at rates much faster than anticipated and its effects are clearly felt worldwide. The impacts include changing weather patterns, rising sea level, and more extreme weather events. The year 2019 was the second warmest on record, bringing with it massive wildfires, hurricanes, droughts, floods and other climate disasters. If left unchecked, climate change will undo a lot of the progress made over the past years in development. It will also provoke mass migrations that will lead to instability and wars. Climate change is a global challenge that requires coordinated international cooperation. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas and marine resources for sustainable development. Oceans cover 3/4 of the Earth's surface, contain 97% of the Earth's water, and represent 99% of the living space on the planet by volume. The world's oceans provide key natural resources including food, medicines, biofuels and other products, help with the breakdown and removal of waste and pollution, and their coastal ecosystems act as buffers to reduce damage from storms. Today more than 30% of the world's fish stocks are overexploited, and marine pollution is reaching alarming levels, with an average of 13,000 pieces of plastic litter to be found on every square kilometer of ocean. Careful management of this essential global resource is a key feature of a sustainable future. 15. Protect, restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. Plant life provides 80% of the human diet, and agriculture is an important economic resource and means of development. Forests cover more than 30% of the Earth's surface, but 7 million hectares of forests are being lost every year, while the persistent degradation of drylands has led to the desertification of close to 4 billion hectares. Of the 8,300 animal breeds known, 8% are extinct and 22% are at risk of extinction. Halting deforestation and restoring the use of terrestrial ecosystems is necessary to reduce the loss of natural habitats and biodiversity, which are part of our common heritage. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. People everywhere should be free of fear from all forms of violence and feel safe as they go about their lives, whatever their ethnicity, faith or sexual orientation. High levels of armed violence and insecurity have a destructive impact on a country's development. Governments, civil society and communities need to work together to find lasting solutions to conflict and insecurity. Strengthening the rule of law and promoting human rights is key to this process, as is reducing the flow of illicit arms, combating corruption, and ensuring inclusive participation at all times. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is universal and calls for action by all countries, developed and developing, to ensure no one is left behind. It requires partnerships between governments, the private sector, and civil society. The Sustainable Development Goals can only be realized with a strong commitment to global partnership and cooperation. Significant challenges remain. Official development assistance is declining, private investment flows are not well aligned with sustainable development, there continues to be a significant digital divide, and there are ongoing trade tensions. To be successful, everyone will need to mobilize both existing and additional resources, and developed countries will need to fulfill their official development assistance commitments.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.